And we're live. All right.
All right. Hello again. Part two.
Yeah. Rock me till I burn to the bone. Yeah. This is Jack Mangan. Still wearing the same David Bowie shirt, but that was only a couple hours ago. So, thank you everyone for coming back. And then, Rich, why don't you introduce us to your friend?
Okay. So we are joined by, and I'm going to steal a quote from your boss, the incendiary guitar skills of Mr. Joel Hoekstra.
Yeah, DC's finest quote for sure.
I love it. Anytime, and just listening to him talk is awesome. But when he talks about you guys in the band, his adjectives are the best.
Yeah, I mean it's a blessing to be in the band for many reasons, but DC's superlatives definitely add to the list, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Do you ask him for his autograph every day? I mean, I certainly would if I ever. He is just he's just incredible.
It's just a strange combination of having somebody who's your friend and you feel like you're just hanging out with your buddy, and also having somebody who's had this iconic career, this amazing storied career. So it just kind of goes back and forth. Like you're hanging out laughing, and then all of a sudden he starts talking about working with Richie Blackmore or something on something. You're like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Jimmy Page, and crazy stuff. So amazing to be a part of it.
That's awesome. Were you actually a big Whitesnake fan before you became a member of the band?
I was kind of like your standard US rock kid, I got into Slide In a little bit when that was out, and then definitely wore out the '87 cassette.
Yeah.
Had that and wore that out, and then got Slip of the Tongue and pretty much wore that out as well. I mean, I like Slip of the Tongue in that era. I know a lot of pure Whitesnake purists aren't big fans of it, but as a kid in that particular era, it certainly fit right in, and I listened to it a lot as well, and then kind of lost touch. But I was like, as David calls it, the Geffen era, right? Those records, and then obviously since joining the band, I became familiar with the whole catalog, and I love the early stuff. It's great. So
like most of us in America, you weren't too familiar then with pre-'84 Whitesnake then, huh?
No, just like just the stuff that was big in the States. Yeah, I was very typical '80s kid growing up.
Yeah. So, I mean, they never played it on the radio here, or they didn't have any videos here either. So what did we know if we didn't grab the album in the bin?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I'm same as you. It was that Slide It In that was played on MTV. That's how I first discovered Whitesnake. And I mean, of course, for me as a kid, like, oh, that's where they started. But obviously they go way. David Coverdale. I mean, Deep Purple. The guy's got a legendary career.
Yeah.
But I've seen, so in talks, speaking of legend, I've seen that, you said, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want to ask you really about AC/DC. I mean, what is AC/DC? Apparently they meant a lot to you, right? Angus was a big part of your inspiration. Is that fair?
Mainly just the initial inspiration more than anything. And I mean, I still think Back in Black is like the greatest hard rock album ever, right? I don't think that's too much of a controversial statement to make. I mean, that's an amazing record. But I just seeing Angus Young and all his energy when he was playing, and just hearing AC/DC, all those great songs and so pretty much the Bon Scott era, but actually the initial thing was like those are the Back in Black, and For Those About to Rock, like the beginning of the Brian Johnson era. But the Bon Scott stuff was not too long after in terms of me listening and all that stuff. So that was that's what got me started. That's who I thought was the coolest and set out to be. And I was pretty narrow-minded in the early going. I mean, it was kind of like AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Iron Maiden. Anything else was like, no. Just, but obviously I broadened my horizons just a little bit since then.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Yeah. All right, Rich, I always talk over you, so I want to make sure that you have all the space.
Are you done with your question? I'll give him one.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So for someone who's not familiar with you, before Whitesnake. I actually saw you on Broadway when you were in Rock of Ages. So, is there anything previous to Rock of Ages that somebody might know you from? I know you have a couple solo records too. So, can you give people a little, bridged part of your history, your backstory before you got that Broadway gig?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the Chicago suburbs and then went to GIT and stayed another year in Hollywood out there. That's a guitar school in Hollywood. Those that don't know, Guitar Institute of Technology. And then moved back to the Chicago area, just gigged with my own bands, taught a lot of lessons. And then that just kind of like, that picked up locally there in Chicago, playing with Kathy Richardson's band and playing for Jim Peterick's World Stage Band, which he would have all his friends from the 80s. Those that don't know Jim, he co-founded Survivor and the Ides of March, so he wrote Vehicle, and he wrote all the Survivor hits, and a million other co-writes, 38 Special. He wrote Heavy Metal with Sammy Hagar. So he would have these events called World Stage, and I'd be in the house band. That's what led to Night Ranger, because Kelly Kagi from Night Ranger was really one of the guys that would come, and those were only like once or twice a year tops. And that continued on after I came to New York. So that really got my foot in the door in terms of getting an audition with Night Ranger. When my audition was really a gig. It was like, come play the show with us and we'll see how it goes. But that's the basic path up was the Jim Peterick's World Stage into Night Ranger, but it's also simultaneously coming out here and playing in Love Janis, which was a show about Janis Joplin through being in Kathy Richardson's band. She got the gig as Janis Joplin. So that led me to New York City. And through me doing that theater thing, that really is what led to Rock of Ages. So all these things just kind of grew. And so next thing you know, I actually had Night Ranger before Rock of Ages. So I was in Night Ranger, added Rock of Ages to that, then got Trans-Siberian Orchestra to kind of fit as a third piece onto there for that time period. And that was great having Rock of Ages, because I could take off during that time. I could sub out whenever I needed to be able to carry a touring scenario. Otherwise, it might not have fit. I don't know if I would have quit Night Ranger to be in a Broadway show. I don't think that would have been like in the plan for me. I definitely, my heart was in Night Ranger and the real rock world at the time, but it ended up being this beautiful fit because I could take off whenever I wanted and just have a gig whenever I was home, 8 shows a week. So and from there, things just kind of transitioned from Rock of Ages was going to close, getting the opportunity to join Whitesnake. And so having it for a tiny bit there become Whitesnake and Rock of Ages and TSO. And then really Rock of Ages closing, just Whitesnake, TSO, and then David getting his knees done and things like that. And me having some extra time, added Cher in. So it was kind of Whitesnake, Cher, TSO for a little bit, so for a few years. So yeah, just kind of that's the basic story. Just kind of just transitioning and always just trying to stay busy, not be content.
Yeah. One thing led to another, like usually happens.
Yeah, I think work does lead to work. There's no question. If you keep yourself busy, you'll somehow just find yourself working more and more. I've found, at least. So even if it's a scenario where I have nothing, I just get myself out there and start doing stuff and be busy and work and do what you do. I mean, that's usually when people ask me, how do you get somewhere with it? I just say, well, you just have to do it. You just have to start working. And like the money may come, it may sometimes come, it may not come at other times. You just have to kind of just keep going forward. And I think somehow my naivete and me being able to be excited about really simple, stupid things kind of led me to be able to get through all the tough times. I mean, I think where I grew up, you really weren't supposed to be able to do the stuff that I've been able to do. So I think every little step of the way, I found some kind of genuine spark or excitement in it. Like, man, I'm traveling out of town to go play a gig. This is amazing. Like that kind of thing. Right. I didn't grow up with this jaded, I didn't come from LA or something like that, where I was 15 years old talking about getting signed to a record label. That stuff was like outer space where I grew up. It was like, nobody does that. Come on, not for real, So anyway, it's been a great ride to be able to have the opportunities I've had, and My thing is always just try to be positive and do the best I can at every turn, and then hopefully that leads to stuff. And if it doesn't, then I just gotta take it as I tried my best, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow,
All right, Jack. Go
great.
ahead.
Well, I guess I'll lead. I'll dovetail from that. I know that also. I mean, you've given a very positive outlook, which is awesome. It's been great. But I know. I mean, there's a well-storied dark side of the music industry too. We've seen, a lot of people. Hell, you were in the Genesian play. So I mean, there's a dark side. How have you kind of skirted around that your whole life and made it? You're healthy now. You're great. You're doing great. So how have you just dealt with that part of rock and roll?
I think a lot of that is desperation, just actually needing it to work. Like I've never had a plan B. They always say if you get a plan B, that's usually what you're going to end up doing. If there's like anything else that you could do, but there's kind of really never been anything else that I've been able to do. So it's like, okay, man, I just need to have this work out somehow. So definitely hard work, but the desperation, and because of that, then the ability to kind of go, well, all right, so that's the deal this time. I think music is just like any other job. I mean, there's I think people in the corporate world or anything like that, they're always gonna. I mean, I guess I don't know. I've never really worked in the corporate world, but I'm just assuming that they have times where they're wishing things would go certain ways, or other people get promoted and they don't, and your first inclination is to lash out and be negative about these things rather than just kind of like learn to ride it out. And so you have to tell yourself, I think too, with music, it's it a lot of times it's about making other people happy more than it's about making yourself happy in a group situation. So I think through being able to do that and just having probably somewhere in me the will to like want to make people happy with all this too. And I'm talking about my coworkers more than like the fans. Not that I don't care to make fans happy. I do actually. I try hard in that department too. But the people I'm in bands with, like I want them to like me. I don't have the like, hey man, I'm doing this kind of thing. It's like not like that. I'm not that kind of guy like at all. So.
All right. I will say really quickly, if you're out there watching on any of the channels, you can ask us questions. If you ask the questions at MetalAsylum.net, we'll see him. That's Joel Hoekstra. He's been in many associated with many great bands and acts, including Cher. But anyway, Rich, I don't want to.
including
we're a little off our time from before, but that's okay.
Yeah. No, much respect for Cher. I didn't mean that as like a bunch of great acts and Cher. That's not what I meant.
Well, I like to say the whole hard work thing. It takes you to situations that you'd never see coming. I mean, when I was 11 years old, practicing Black Sabbath on my guitar, I never was sitting there going, someday I'm going to be in a Broadway show. And I certainly was never sitting there going, someday I'm going to play with Cher. But it's like, as it turns out, those things are huge blessings in my life. So you just can never tell. And that's why I always tell people, try not to be too specific. I get a lot of people inboxing me about, their dream is to be in Trans-Siberian Orchestra, or their dream is, to play Whitesnake or whatever. It's like, you just have to just play. I was never that specific about things. Like, I want to be in that band. It was like, you just work really hard at every turn. And sometimes life is going to surprise you with these things that are like, amazing blessings. But at the, like I said, years ago, if I look back on that as a kid, I'd probably be like, thumbs down, like Broadway show. But hey, man, life is funny that way. You end up doing things that are like, oh my gosh, Rock of Ages really changed my life. It really did, being a part of that. I was the guy with like a little bit of money in the bank, just joined Night Ranger, doing okay, and then by the time that 6 years was up of having that to fill in between touring. I mean, money in the bank, I had met so many people coming through there. I got to fill in for Mick Jones from Foreigner because of their manager getting to know me. All those connections that came through there really changed my life.
Nice.
Great.
Okay. All right. So you talked, Jack, you asked him about, when it gets tough and things like that. So now that we got the pandemic and there's no shows, So what are you doing in all these, these downtimes that we have for music?
So just trying to stay productive on a daily basis. That's always my thing, to try and break it down to like a daily thing. So I finished tracking my album, the follow up to the album I put out in 2015. So it's under the name Joel Hoekstra's 13. And then
Right. Yeah.
anyway, the album in 2015 was called Dying to Live. And there's a follow up that people can expect out at the top of 2021. And some
Cool.
singles out before then. So pretty soon, actually, people will start getting a little taste of that.
Right. Can you tell us anything about it? Who's on it? Any guests or anything, or is it all secret right now?
So same lineup. It's Vinny Appice on drums and Tony Franklin on bass, Derek Sherinian on keys, and Russell Allen did all the lead vocals this time, and Jeff Scazzotto sang the backups on it for me. It's a nice way. He's so amazing at that. So
what a lineup! Gee, what a lineup!
Yes, so that was the first thing I got done, and then obviously finished up that song with Tony Harnell for that project, Echo Bats. I've been doing loads of sessions for people, those quarantine videos. I've been doing master classes for Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp and Rock Stars of Tomorrow and Masters of Shred, and teaching private Skype lessons, which I've been doing a ton of, actually, teaching like over 30 students a week. So really between it all, I did a lot of writing with friends, and it seems like every day there's like a teach 5 or 6 lessons, musical project, do interviews, just trying to just be productive, and see where.
So you're always still busy then, even though you're not touring and playing live, you're still busy every day doing music.
Busier, honestly. I feel like I'm working probably harder right now, just because the teaching is very time consuming. The money comes a little bit easier with touring, I would say, than with teaching. Teaching is just and I'm also somebody who doesn't want to. I want everybody to walk away from every guitar lesson with me going like, that was totally worth it. That was awesome. That was a great lesson. Like I don't want that experience of somebody leaving even a guitar lesson and going like, I don't know about that. So anyway, I'm just working hard, man. Just trying to push forward, and we'll see where life takes it all. I mean, I kind of at this stage of it, almost like working under the assumption, just so I'm pleasantly surprised, of touring is never coming back, if that makes sense. I just kind of operate with that mindset at the moment.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, how can I make like right now work? And then, if we end up getting back out there and doing stuff, great. But at the same time, all these people saying, hey, we got dates in March, and that I'm so sick of the string of canceled dates that it's like I just don't even want to hear about it until we're really truly hearing about it. And there's always people, hey, we're lining up dates for this, but are you really going to do them? Is that, or is it just going to be another cancellation?
Right.
So anyway, just working hard. That's all, man. It comes down to doing that every day. That's what I always tell people. It's more than just saying you're working hard. You have to like ask yourself every day, did you do something positive to move forward? So cameos, I've been doing those. Those are fun. Just get lots of interesting requests to do little snippets of songs and whatever, rock out for people, personal messages, all that stuff. So anything to kind of just keep everything moving forward, man.
That's good. All right, Jack.
Excellent. Well, actually, we got a question on the web. Is Ben Nushaka says, I forget the name of the project you have with Mike Portnoy and Dino Jesselnick. I know I'm spelling that wrong, is what he says, but I guess he's asking about that project.
That's not even a project. That was really I covered Jane Dino Jalusic, who sings with TSO West, Trans-Siberian Orchestra West, so we know each other from there. He's been making these quarantine videos, and he's just an amazing singer, and he actually plays great bass and keyboards as well, and people can hear him play it on that song Jane. You can go to YouTube and search Joel Hoekstra, whatever, Dino Jalusic, Mike Portnoy, Jane, the Jefferson Starship song that we covered. Mm-hmm. But that was just us having fun. That was just, there's nothing commercial about that or anything. It's not an official project. That was just to give the fans something and keep us out there and have people not forget about us. And then I did another one with Dino because the Live Nation had that 6-string salute event that was to benefit all the crew workers. So all the music industry crew. So covered Stormbringer with Dino again, and then it was Virgil Donati on drums and Tony Franklin on bass. So that you can check that out. That's like I said, the quarantine video thing, just kind of staying out there. And then there's a shred compilation thing that just came out with like 1 million. It was kind of hilarious, man. It's all the new generation of shredders, all the YouTube kids that are just, guns blazing 1 million miles an hour. And then there was me. And I think in the comment section, pretty much everybody's remarking that I'm like the old school guy, man. I feel like I'm like, you read the comments and I feel like I'm 195 years old compared to all these kids, It's pretty amusing, but just did that. Bumblefoot had to play along for Hit to promote his record called Planetary Lockdown. So I did that little snippet. Like I said, the Tony Harnell thing. I'm forgetting some other stuff. I know I've tried to get some stuff out there in terms of video content here and there. I have another shred compilation thing coming out pretty soon too with somebody else, and just trying to give people stuff to check out. But then it's going to be kind of after that, probably more or less time to start really promoting my record more than anything.
Cool. All right, Rich, I want to go. I have a quick question because I think, Joel, I think you are a great counter to the school of thought that says you can either be bluesy or you can have the theory and the technicality, the GIT technicality. I think there are people who kind of feel like those two worlds can't really combine. But as I said, I think, you are kind of proof that these two worlds can kind of coexist. That there can be players who do that. So I mean, how do you see that those two worlds coexist together, or is that just second nature to you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did a lot of different playing in my career. I mean, one of the best things that ever happened to me was getting out of GIT when probably all I did was really play technically at the age of 20 and having Nirvana hit and having all of it become completely irrelevant. It was like that whole thing was like throw it in the trash can. Like I wasn't going to be cool if I was going to be shredding, or that was like a derogatory term that started in the 90s. Like people would say, oh, that guy's a shredder. Like that was sort of like, you don't want that guy. He's going to be like playing fast and that's not cool. And so it's funny that that's considered a positive term these days, because back in the I remember when that term came out and it was like you didn't want to be a shredder. But that really led me to a path of trying to just learn and do everything I could to make me valuable to musical situations along the way. And I just took whatever path like paid the bills and kept me working. And so that involved being in the Love Janis musical where I was playing Big Brother and the Holding Company stuff, with an SG plugged into a Fender Super Reverb and trying to emulate the Big Brother and the Holding Company thing more than shredding. And then that same director took me out with a show called It Ain't Nothing But the Blues, which was a blues show. So playing just blues style lead guitar, very clean, style, like old school blues, and playing in the Turtles. I mean, I was the bass player in the Turtles for like 2 years. I mean, it's like people don't realize the weird path I've had to get to be like, in the situation I'm in. That was real. Love Janis kind of led to that. And so lots of strange situations, but it's like whatever kept me working. And then, I eventually transitioned over to guitar in the Turtles, but that was also like, you couldn't fall back on like, I can play fast in that band. That meant absolutely nothing. I mean, I think I had like one solo where I shredded all night. That was like, one where they'd kind of let you go a little bit. But so it was more about like, am I a guy who people want to work with in that band? Am I on time? All the simple stuff, right? But it's funny how many people haven't gone through that have great ability on guitar that kind of sell themselves short by just not doing the basics sometimes, right? So putting those things together. So I guess you asking about the blues thing combined with the shred. That's my answer. Is I just kind of did everything I could along the way. So I did play a lot of blues. I played blues gigs. I played jazz gigs. I played background classical gigs. It just so happens that the thing that really took off for me is what my heart was in when I picked up a guitar, which was this hard rock thing, right? So it's like I picked up the guitar because of hard rock, and then eventually through that whole period I talked about where shred wasn't cool and doing every gig possible, lo and behold, this resurgence happens of this music that I started out with, and I end up having my best era of success through that. But I would say it's just through having an open mind. Like, you know, don't be afraid to play slow. If you have great chops, try to play gigs where you're just playing professionally and it's not about those chops. Try to do whatever is keeps you in the real musical world, not in the I guess, like, you know, we just got done talking about making YouTube videos, but like, you know what I'm saying? There's people that spend like they dedicate all their time to like playing as fantastically as they can for these little segments on YouTube. And it's like, yes, but does that translate into a musical career? Like, how does that, sometimes guitar is nothing more than this, which is great. You know, I got no problem with that as long as I'm doing this on a high level, playing with great musicians, playing with good people, positive people, all that great stuff. So these are the longest answers you've ever had in your entire life, and I'm sorry. My adrenaline's kind of going from earlier, so sorry.
Oh. No, you know, I love the insightful answers. Yeah, we definitely prefer that. That's great. And and by the way, really quickly, Ben Nushaka chimed in, also said that Bumblefoot turned him on to you, so he found you through Bumblefoot. So there you go. But
right on. Yeah. Bumblefoot is amazing. So that's a great story. That when I joined Night Ranger, I technically kind of filled Jeff Watson's shoes in the 7 years I was in that band. And Jeff's an amazing player, had so many great iconic solos to have to cover when you join that band like that. And then when I left to join Whitesnake, Jeff wrote me a note just saying, hey, great job. And we kind of struck up a friendship. And then he added me to this email group that he has that's it's not just guitar players, but it's a lot of really, really great guitar players. And it's called The Thread. And so that's Bumblefoot and I know each other from there, but there's just a bunch of world-class players on there. And we all kind of, I don't include myself in the world-class thing, but we all kind of email and converse on a regular basis. So it's pretty much a daily thing. It's like Steve Morse and Steve Lukather and Steve Vai and Bumblefoot and some really, you know, big name players on there. Some amazing guys, Steph Burns, Doug Rappaport, Tal Morris, some killer players. So that's ended up being this out of left field blessing as well, man. You know, you're like through this guy who I had to emulate for 7 years, I just never would have dreamed that now, you know, we strike up a friendship and we're talking online through email on a daily basis. And it's funny, life takes you in strange places.
Cool. All right, Rich.
Okay. So between TSO, Night Ranger, and Whitesnake, what's the most challenging, I'd say, song from each band that you had to learn how to play?
Man, it always feels challenging. I don't know that I can necessarily think of one. It's just always about, like, for me, it's always playing every song, even the easy ones, as good as possible, like a gig. I take it gig by gig, I suppose, because like if I knocked it out of the park on the hardest song, but I made a big mistake in the easiest song, I'd look like a doofus anyway. So at the end of the gig. So I think it's always just about, my mindset is more about like trying to do my best on all of it. I don't know that any of them have really been like, I can't do that. I mean, there's certain phrases all the time that I have to play a little bit differently than certain players to pull off or whatever. Be like, well, I got to kind of do that my way. But outside of that, I'm usually good. Like, as long as there's no problem with me kind of putting my own spin on things here or there to you know, make it all happen, then fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Jack?
All right. Yeah, no, that's great. Well, you know, you've mentioned a lot of amazing people. Like when you said the people who are going to be on your next album, like my jaw, I had to pick up my jaw off the floor. It's amazing. So can you just, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. Can you just name some of your best friends, some of the coolest people you've worked with in the industry, like or just over your careers, like some of your absolute favorite people?
Oh man, I mean, I can't single anybody out. I mean, I've been blessed to have this amazing path. I mean, I love having the opportunity to work in Whitesnake with legends like David Coverdale and Tommy Aldridge. Man, I mean, let's not forget the fact that that's quite a rock legend right there. He's done an awful lot in the business, and Red Beach has sold millions of records. Guy's got platinum albums hanging on his wall. So. Having that and having the ability to work with the guys in Night Ranger, just everything I got to learn. Brad Gillis, just had the time of my life with him. Brad and I brought the 80s into 2008 when I joined that band. I mean, we just had a lot of fun. We had about as much fun as I think a guitar team can have. And all my TSO bandmates and that whole experience of TSO, just being a part of Paul O'Neill's a mad scientist vision with that, man. I mean, you draw that up on paper and you go, all right, is that going to fly? And people say no way. And we sell out arenas twice a day, and you get done and you're like, wow, we just played for 30,000 people today. I mean, that's an amazing experience that not too many artists have the opportunity to do anymore. So there's a long list, man. My opportunity to get to fill in for Mick Jones that I mentioned earlier in Foreigner. I mean, just the opportunity to meet Mick and fill in for somebody as legendary as him. I mean, what an honor to have that opportunity. And and these are just really the most famous people. There's also this whole list of people, all these guys that, like we're talking about Dino, he's a rising star, that kid. I mean, it's just to have the opportunity to make videos with him and hear him sing like he does is amazing. But he's not achieved all the things that some of these other guys were talking about just yet, but he very well may. He's got a bright future ahead of him. So for me, the list is long, man, and I hope to keep it growing.
Awesome. No, great answer. Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks. All right, Rich, what do you got?
What, let me see. I got a couple of them. What is your favorite, or no, not favorite. If you could pick a Whitesnake song to add to the set, what would you want to put in? And why?
That's I don't know if I really have. I don't know if I really have one. I mean, I'm so that when we did the Greatest Hits tour in 2016, that's probably my favorite set list I've ever had the opportunity to play. It was amazing, man. I mean, it was like pretty much all the best stuff from the Geffen era records. And just to have that set list and looking down, it was like, boy, every song is recognizable and a song that I absolutely love. But like I said, my mindset is usually wrapped up in like play the best you can. Like even if it's a song that I think very much like a player when I'm playing the gig more than a listener. So I'm not big on the song list preference. Which maybe is why people enjoy having me in that discussion, because I'm not the guy go, we have to do that one, man. It's like I'm kind of like, whatever you guys want, man. I'll try and do the best I can.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
Awesome.
I wish I had a better answer for you.
That's all right. I'm like thinking as you're talking, I'm like, I'd throw in like Cheap and Nasty or something like that, And
that would be cool. That'd be cool. Yeah, that's a jam. I like that.
Yeah.
David's got that AC/DC side of him, man, for sure. That kind of stuff. That reminds me of like I love playing all that. There's just so many great Whitesnake songs, man. It's really hard for me to be like, I really wish we were doing this one. I can't come up with one off the top of my head.
Okay. Jack, can I ask him a second one?
Oh, yeah, by all means.
So since you're in TSO, you had to play a couple Sabotage songs. So did you become a Sabotage fan? And is there maybe another Sabotage song you'd like to see played in the future?
Not really. I mean, my exposure to them is limited, man. I mean, I've heard some of the stuff. Caffrey plays it for me on the bus, you know, especially back when I joined the band and we were hanging out partying in the lounge in the early days. So incredible talent, you know, that Chris Oliva, man, really
Yeah.
underrated
Yes.
guitar player from that era, man. It was just really amazing player. But in terms of, you know, like a specific song or anything like that, can't really think. I mean, I think Chance was last year, that not this past year, but the one before. So what, 2018? Yeah, 2000. That was the highlight of the show for me. And I was off in the wings playing rhythm guitar. I wasn't even. It was really Caffrey and Zach Stevens down there, you know, in the spotlight. But that song, that rocked, man. I love that, bringing the that big theatrical metal sound to the TSO stage is really, I think, when it's at its best, you know, having all those vocalists up there, all those top notch vocalists singing big harmonies, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I saw the show. I saw that show, and I saw last year when you guys did Handful of Rain, and that was great too.
Oh yeah, that ruled too. I really enjoyed doing that too, man. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great material, but again, maybe it's because my hard drive is always full, and I'm like, huh? Well, I'm trying to think of one, but I don't know that I could know. It's I'm that way with playing songs too, by the way. Like, I get done with a tour, and like probably a week later, if you asked me to play one of those songs, I'd be like, what key is it in?
It's like music. It's like music overload, right?
It all goes away. There's some players that just remember it all. It seems like they're just like, oh yeah, I learned that one, you know, 17 years ago to play this bar gig, no problem. It's like all there, note for note. I'm like, man, it takes review for me all the time.
That's reassuring, because I'm the same way. So I'm glad to hear that. Like, at some level, even has that sometimes.
Trust me, man. You could just you could follow me day by day, and you'll feel much, much better about yourself. Trust me.
Well, and to go from following up on what Rich is saying, TSO is doing something this year, right? I mean, I know obviously nobody's touring. We already kind of covered that, but there is a big event, right? As you want to, I don't know, you can plug that or talk about. You guys are doing a virtual? You're doing something big for 2020, right? Is there a TSO?
Yeah, I'm not going to be a part of it though. It's they're combining the West and the East bands, and that's always as it should be, the original guitar players are going to be playing on it. So it's Al Petrelli and Chris Caffrey playing guitar on it, which is, that's more than cool with me. It's their baby, for sure. They've been there all the way since day one, so that's good. I'm glad that they're going to be doing something and keeping the brand alive, so to speak. But obviously, it blows not to be a part of it, but hey, what are you going to do? I also totally understand. It's
a whole new show. It's not a pre-recorded thing; it's a whole live thing.
Yeah, they're gonna stream a performance.
All right,
excellent,
cool. Well, we got another question. We got Ben Nushaka is really chiming in a lot, and we appreciate it. It's cool. We like to have questions from outside, but he's asking about the Taylors. You're a Taylor guitar player, and he specifically wants to know if you have a favorite Taylor and if there's a difference between cutaways and non-cutaways.
Well, I got a new Builder series that I'm really digging as far as sounding good, plugged in, and playing great, and so that's doing the best for me at the moment. I mean, the difference with cutaways versus dreadnoughts, that's more or less for miking up a guitar. And typically, if you're going to mic the guitar rather than go direct with it, a dreadnought style guitar, which is the kind without the cutaway up top there, is going to sound better because the body's going to be bigger and a little bit fuller. So the cutaway is obviously if you're going to have to go up high at all and play any lead guitar, so you're not sticking your hand out in front like that for the access up high on the frets if the body is in the way, right? So, people have to go like that versus the cutaway you can reach. So, I think I have maybe 2 dreadnoughts and 3 cutaways here at home or something like that. But Yeah, the Taylors are just, they make very consistent guitars. I mean, they sound good no matter what you plug them into. There's certain guitars that their preamp is such that when you plug them in on certain things, or you go with these monitors or this PA system, it's like, you have this wild boomy low end, or, it's like Taylors just always seem to sound good whatever you plug them into. And it's a very important thing. And they also they make their guitars very consistently. Like, you get one and I could get another one and it'll play exactly the same as that one. It's not going to be like, oh, the guy who was asleep at the wheel who put that one together. I mean, they're very consistent and always sound consistent.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Good question. Thanks. All right, Rich, I think it's your turn, man.
Okay. So you're not touring with Cher, but are you doing anything with Cher on the downtime?
No, I mean, that pretty much was like a parting of ways at the top of this year, because Whitesnake had lined up 6 months of touring and TSO had 2 months. So I was looking at in 2019, I was on the road for 285 days out of the year. And
Wow.
that was once Whitesnake heated back up, the Cher thing was really hard. I mean, I only made it for half of her shows, and she heated up. I mean, she was like all of a sudden like, hey, I'm going to make an album and go out on tour. And it was like, oh my God, Dave, we made a record and we're going on tour. And it was like I was like, something's got to give, man. I was juggling pretty hard. She was amazing to let me stick around through 2019. And then this year with 2020, I think I was available for like 20% of her shows at the top of the year, when I had my Whitesnake calendar and her calendar coming in. So that was sort of like, all right, we're going to need somebody that can actually be here. I was like, I understand. So anyway, but she was amazing through the 3-4 years that I did do that. So.
Okay, so then when live shows hopefully start happening again, you'll be strictly with Whitesnake then and TSO then, and not doing Cher stuff, you think?
Man, like I said, at this stage of the game, I'm looking at like live playing is not happening. So I'm pleasantly surprised, and I pick up the pieces and see where we're at. I mean, I know that TSO's off this year. I haven't received anything as far as like, hey, pencil this in for Whitesnake. So, I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens. But in the meantime, I'll just always stick with my philosophy of just being productive, because at the end of the day, that'll be the thing that will do the best. That's the mentality that will do the best over the angsting over what's happening with particular situations and all that stuff. It's like, it's not really about that. So always just about like being productive. That way people are attracted and be like, hey man, that's the guy you want. This guy will do a good job. And so yeah.
All right, Jack.
Well, and then so again, along the same lines, without touring, just assuming that there's not going to be touring in the foreseeable future, what is the plan for your solo record for next year? And we already touched a little bit on who's going to be on it. What's the plan to promote it and kind of get the word out there and shop it around? Are you going to do virtual shows, or if live gigs open up, is that a thought?
Again, I mean, I would love to take that on the road, but we'll see what happens with that. I mean, I just taped 3 play-along lessons for Guitar World. So there will be, for what it's worth for the guitar players out there, they can actually like, see what it's like with me playing it and actually learn it. So that I did 2 days ago. And then I think there's going to be some other video content to promote it. So just taking it step by step. I mean, just like any other thing, they'll release the singles, and I'll probably just be online on social media a lot, just doing interviews and trying to create awareness around it and get people to listen to it, and take it from there, man. But yeah, it's really hard to comment on like what I'm going to do live when there's no live.
Yeah, I understood. But make sure, I will talk to your people too. Make sure we'll promote it through Metal Asylum for sure when it's ready. Absolutely, we'll do our small part. So for sure,
Review it. You do another interview too.
Absolutely. I mean, I would love that. If you guys want to touch base again at the top of the year of 2021 or whatever, when the record's coming out, that'd be amazing. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Rich. Yeah.
And hopefully by then we can actually, maybe we can at that point talk about like, hey, it looks like these are the, when we'll be back out playing or whatever. Right now, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any really vintage guitars? Something that's really hard to find, hard to get, really expensive? What's your prize?
I have a couple of guitars that they didn't make that many of. Like I have that 50th anniversary Gibson V that has like the Steinberger tuners on it and the alternate logo. And I think they only made 500 of those. And I have number 500. And then that the controversial Star Trek looking the Gibson Modern V that I see the gold. It looks like the Star Trek emblem. It's a little bit of a Jackson Roswell Rhodes ripoff. That Gibson made. I played that with TSO last year, and I forget how many they made, but it's not many. There's barely any of those, and I just owning one I think is kind of cool because it's a Gibson and there's not a whole lot. But no, I don't. Number one, I don't really have the money to like play in like the, oh man, I've got this mint condition 1959 Les Paul. I'm not like that guy. And plus I play all mine anyway. Like all my guitars get played. I don't buy them to like hang them on the wall and, the Nigel Tufnell dust them off as I, right? It's that amazing thing, right? Like polishing it up while he's playing it, right? Or none of mine still have the old tagger on them. The oldest guitar I have is that Silvertone I played in the Echo Bats video for that song "Save Me from Loving You" on YouTube with Tony Harnell singing. I played it's a 1962 Silvertone, so that's the oldest guitar I own. But those are cheapy guitars from back then. It's not like I'm whatever have a legitimate like 1962 Strat or something. Out of my price range, brother.
So you're not a collector then. You're more of a guitar collector for playing purposes.
Yeah, I'm a collector to a degree for playing. Absolutely. I mean, I think I own, I don't even know the number, but somewhere about like 40 or something like that, which is a fair amount at the end of the day. It's like, not bad at all. So, that's enough for me. I don't really want to be one of those dudes. And also I live in New York City, man. I live in an apartment. So I don't have like a whole basement dedicated to like my guitar collection and my studio setup and all that stuff like some cats, like I'm struggling to like jam stuff into where I live and make it all work. So there's also that factor. But I'm more than happy with my guitar collection. I mean, there's times where I feel like maybe I should do some changing because like there's a couple I want, but then I feel like there's some that maybe I'm not going to play that much, and so I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't want to become the guy who just keeps only buying, and then it just gets stupid when you're like, yeah, man, I own 139 guitars. It's like, well, what are you going to do with 139 guitars, man? Like
exactly.
Right. Have a huge jam with 139 friends come over and jam. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, not necessarily who guitar players you collect, because that'd be weird. But if you have a young kid or a young guitar player come or someone come and talk to you about who should I listen to? Who's inspires you? Like we talked about Angus Young a little bit. And you've mentioned some other players, but who are some of to you like the all-time greats, like the guys who really inspire you?
Oh, it's a really long list, man. I mean, I think outside of like coming up as a kid, it was about bands more than it was about the guitar players. So like when people ask me my influences, a lot of times I name bands more than I name the specific guitar player from it. And so early on, that was the hard rock bands, right? That we really said I was like AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Iron Maiden, Scorpions were definitely in there for sure. And then from there, it was like the more melodic bands, Journey, Boston, Foreigner, classic stuff like Pink Floyd, Zeppelin. Gosh, who else would I throw in there? You got to put Jimi Hendrix in there, and then there was the guitar records. Like there was all that stuff that came out when I was younger. The Yngwie and Satriani and Vai and all that stuff had an influence on me. Steve Morse. You gotta. I'm like a mashup of all that stuff. Plus, back when I was younger, it's like playing all these different styles, like going to school for classical guitar and like studying classical guitar and learning how to play jazz. And then like, so all these teachers that I had big influences on me. I had a really lucky break having TJ Helmrich was my second teacher back. I lived in the Chicago suburbs. And he put out all these, rock fusion albums later in his life, but with my friend Brett Garsed. So those two guys had a big influence on me. But TJ was doing all this stuff when I was like 14, 15 years old, right? And he was teaching, and so he probably was teaching me that stuff when I was 14 or 15 years old because he wanted to practice during the lesson, kind of thing. Like, here, kid. Work on this stuff, and that ended up paying off for me with the Night Ranger gig years down the road. I mean, it was really weird how life works like that, right? Because I mean, for a long time I thought, man, that was the weirdest thing. I was working on all this stuff. What was I doing? I was only like 14 years old, and like all of a sudden it turns out to be a blessing with the Night Ranger thing. But my teachers, people I play with, these are the people that have the biggest influence on me. And but there's so many, man. I'd say if there's one guitar player who I just watch and I'm totally in awe of, it's probably Tommy Emmanuel. I would say is just ridiculous on acoustic. I have probably a secret fantasy of retiring from it all, selling every guitar and just having one acoustic and being like the poor man's Tommy Emmanuel, just pricing acoustic 6 to 8 hours a day and trying to get it together like him.
All right, cool. Well, great answer again. All right, Rich, what do you got?
Well, what do you want to tell everybody to pay attention to, with what you got for the rest of the year? Social media, your Facebook, what's your, aside from the solo album, what should everybody be paying attention to what Joel Hoekstra's up to?
Yeah, try and give everybody some surprises throughout the rest of the year. Have a couple more quarantine kind of things but like I said, I think people are going to get some previews from the album fairly soon. So
okay.
Hopefully that can tide people over until the actual release date. That's the way Frontiers usually works, is they'll stagger a few singles until the actual release.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah,
Jack?
and yeah, we know. Yeah. What's up?
We're nearing the end of our time, I know, so I don't want to keep them too long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we do appreciate you. Yeah, you coming out. Yeah, I was gonna say
Dudes, well, what can I say? I'm so sorry that I was absent
cool.
at our initial time. I have a good reason though, but I appreciate you understanding and making room for me a little bit later tonight.
Of course, life happens. We work around it.
Yeah, exactly. Life happens. No, I think that was that's probably a good place to. I think Rich is right. Yeah, we definitely don't want to keep you too long. It's probably a good place to leave off. But I was saying, yeah, it's been great talking to you. Like I said, we're not just blowing smoke, but we definitely want to promote the new record. I'm excited to hear it. Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely let's stay in touch about that. We definitely want to do our part.
I'd appreciate it. Yeah, that'd be amazing. I'd appreciate coming back on at the top of next year or whenever, whenever. I guess at some point that's going to come down more to the publicist as soon as I start doing the actual record cycle and not these where I get to actually just do it when I want to do it.
We're in touch with Frontiers. We're in touch with Frontiers all the time, so we'll set it up.
Yeah, cool. That'd be awesome. And just tell them I say yes to anything that they, if they're like, hey, yes, of course. I mean, I want to promote anything I'm doing. I don't understand the guys that don't want to do that. That's hilarious to me. Spend time making a record and like, hey, you want to do this interview? No, man, no interviews. I'm like, what? Gotta get the word out, man. Gotta get the word out. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't seem to be like I said, you've been nothing but positivity, which is great. And, we haven't really we haven't really seen from you like, oh, F this guy and F that guy. We haven't. So that's also cool too. Like, it's good to see, I think one of the good guys in the scene.
Trust me, I'm in no position to be that kind of to be that kind of guy. I'm still I'll be the underdog. I think all the way until the day I die, for sure. Gotta always stick. Remain humble. And
I wouldn't say you're the underdog. I mean, come on, look at what band's playing. Come on. You're not the underdog. You're with the big dogs. You're with the big dogs, man. You know.
Yeah, but always having to prove yourself in those situations too, man. You can't can't have a gig like that and just be like, hey man, check me out. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way, because pretty much everybody's you join Whitesnake, and that's quite the list of big name players that have been through there, and you have to realize that fans have their favorites, and you're going to get compared and contrasted with everybody. So that's pretty much when you gotta, so please just don't, I'm just gonna do the best I can, So it's like I said, man, it's I'm never in any situation to. Plus, I'm just always I feel like just trying to do the best I can more than worry about all that stuff, man.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Well, thanks again. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Joel. Thanks, Ben, out there for all the great questions.
Thanks, guys.
And thank you for watching. And keep an eye out for all the cool stuff Joel has coming. 2020
the Soul Action will come back again.
All right.
Thank you so much, dudes. Appreciate it very much.
All right.
Okay.